back in the 90s, I was a child, born in the 80s, sort of in the 80s, the tail end of the 80s, child in the 90s, and not in any very famous TV shows, like a certain horseman. I could have been in such wondrous, amazing, famous TV shows. And then I'd have been the horseman. But I wasn't. I could have been. But I wasn't. I literally could have been. They came to my house. The TV executive writers and shit, they were at my house and they said, "Oh, shit, it's a disaster. You and everyone's gone. We've got no one to come up with shows. What do we do, Ewan?" I don't know why they were at my house. Maybe their car broke down or something, and everyone else in the street was out. And they came into our house to use our phone, and they knew my name or learned my name. I know the details are a bit shaky, because when you're that age, you don't remember stuff all the time quite as you might later on. But they said, "Oh, well, Ewan, you seem like a really fun, creative little kid. You're probably going to go on to do great things later in life. How about now? Do you have ideas for great TV shows? Because everyone's either died or gone or married and had kids and left. So there's no one left at the studio to come up with brilliant new famous TV show ideas. Ewan, do you have any brilliant ideas for TV shows that could become award-winning TV shows and make everyone attached to them world famous and rich beyond their wildest dreams?" And I said, "Oh, sit yourselves down. Let me make you a glass of squash and get you some biscuits." I couldn't make tea. I didn't know how to make tea back then, so I would have offered them tea, but I didn't. I was 6 years old or 5 even, so I couldn't make tea. So I offered them Ribena, but the cheap, store's own brand Ribena, and digestive biscuits. And I sat them down and I said, "Right, here's my ideas for some TV shows. Let's make it happen. Let's become famous." Evidently, they didn't use any of my ideas. If they did, oh, excuse me, I probably wouldn't be here now talking to you like this. Or maybe I would be. Maybe I'd still be doing exactly the same thing, because that's supposed to be cut off. God damn it! I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to make up parts of this very true story that happened. I'm not concentrating on my drawing. But what were the brilliant TV show ideas? That's what everyone's thinking now. Okay, Ewan, you're obviously leading into a bit about TV show ideas. I actually wasn't. I hadn't come up with that bit yet. I was just... All of this was just... I was just trying to reference the 90s to lead into this, and it got out of hand. And I didn't know... I haven't thought about what direction I'm taking it yet. Obviously, I came up with some brilliant show ideas that were too brilliant or too edgy and rebellious that they just couldn't be made. They were too adventurous. Too hot for TV. Oh, that's what they say, isn't it? Too hot for TV. I had this one idea for a show. It was called Poo Around Town, where we go around town, finding poo everywhere. Find a dog poo. Oh, that one's a human poo, definitely. And then you do a little like, yep, definitely human poo, definitely human feces. That one, up against a wall, sort of smeared, wetly smeared in the court, like where a wall meets the floor, and it's like smeared like this, like there's impact, like it's gone and sort of splattered wetly against the corner of the and that's the show. Every week we're in a different town and we go around looking at poo around town, and that, 12 episodes a season, 4 or 5 seasons out of that I reckon you could have got. And they said, okay, that's an interesting concept for a show, and do you have any more? And I said, yes, actually. I've got one called Public Poo. And they all looked at each other, and then they were like, okay, and what's the premise of Public Poo? And I said, right, what we do is, these are all mostly like reality based, and reality TV wasn't even really a thing back then, so I was ahead of my time, really, a trailblazer. The fact that these shows didn't get picked up is criminal, really. Public Poo is what we do, is we go around town, different towns, again, every week, a different town, all over the country. There's so many towns in this country, there's so many opportunities for different settings for each episode. Go around town and you find all the signs, because they have signposts saying, town centre this way, hospital, train station, different signs pointing you around town, letting you know what's where. And you find all the signs that show where the public swimming pool is. Public pool this way, leisure centre and swimming pool this way, public pools this way, this way, this way. And what we do is we get a little team together. And it's also, this has some art to it as well, because the signs can often be different colours. Sometimes they're like ye oldie, chunky black signs with white lettering that's sort of like, not embossed, but the opposite of bossed, sticking out a little bit. And then sometimes they're like brown street signs or green or blue street signs. So we've got to like get paint and mix it to match the colour of the street sign that usually has white text on it. And then you paint out the L, me and the team doing it quietly when no one's looking, maybe at night time. Paint out the L of the word pool on all of these signs, all around different towns all over the UK. And then the show then basically is you sit by the sign and you film people's reactions when they look in for the swimming pool and they look up at the sign and it now says public poo instead of public pool. And obviously everyone, the townspeople headed towards the public, what they think is the public pool, and they see the sign and they see that it says public poo, and they burst into laughter, fall on the ground holding their guts, just laughing hysterically. It says public poo. The sign says public poo. I thought we were going to go have a swim at the pool, but it's been turned into a public poo now. Well, now what do we do? Our afternoon's ruined. Or made far better, depending on your view of things, I suppose. That was my best idea for a show, public poo. That was, still to this day, I think that would be a killer show. Someone should make that. I wouldn't even care about taking credit for it, as long as like the show got made. I'd just be happy to see it. But then the TV executives were like, are all of the show ideas you have, are they all just about poo in some kind of way? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's what people want. That's, it's not that I'm obsessed with poo. It's not I mean, that's not all it is. That's obviously, I think poo is funny, but that's what the people would want. That's what, would get eyes on TV screens and butts in seats to watch it. That's people wouldn't you? Because you'd watch that, wouldn't you? Episode after episode, season after season of public poo. Go around, paint all the signs. But then, because there might be times where, the start of the episode, we get to a new city and we're like looking at maps and we're asking at like local public information centres, like, oh, where's the local swimming baths? We will sort of be careful with our wording. Where are the local swimming baths? Where's the local, pool? Whatever. And they say, oh, it's here, here. And then we'll find the sign. But then sometimes the sign will say swimming baths, or it will say leisure centre. And that will just make it so the public has to just assume there's a pool there, because leisure centres usually have a pool. But it might not have the word pool in it. And then it'll be like a dramatic cut to ad break or whatever, cliffhanger, like, oh, the word pool isn't on the sign. What are we going to do? And in those instances, I don't know what would happen then. I hadn't really thought that bit through, but I was a child when I was coming up with this stuff. I mean, it's arguable that I even grew up. Maybe I'm still a child. Back in the 90s, I was a child, and now I still think that would be the funniest show ever made. If somebody made the show Public Poo. Maybe I should make that as like a YouTube show. Public Poo. There's all these, man on the street interviews and prank shows, and the Hoch girl became famous because of that or whatever. Maybe my version of that should be filming people's reactions to the sign that says Public Poo. And then I'd catch people look like nearby, and I'd be like, oh, did you see what happened? And people would be like, no, what happened? What are you talking? Was there a crime? Did something bad? Was there a fire and explode? What happened? And I say, did you not see? Didn't you see that the sign here? It's a sign for the public pool, but someone painted out the L and now it says Public Poo. Did you see that? And the people would look at me and then have no expression, and they'd walk away, thinking, oh, this is obviously some shit idiot's prank show or something. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to open people's eyes to their surroundings and the fact that Public Poo is really funny. Come on, it's funny. I'd watch that show. I'd watch nothing but that show. If there was like what's this Spotify Wrapped thing they do at the end of everything? I don't really use Spotify, so I don't know. But if there was a version of that for like YouTube or whatever, it would say, you've watched 900 hours of Public Poo. And it would be my own show as well. So I'm just sat there gleefully watching my own show, loving every fucking second of it. Public Poo. Oh, it's so funny. The word poo is just so perfect. It's just can't beat the word poo, man. Especially when it's unexpected, like if you were looking at a sign and it's suddenly... And if it's a sign you've seen multiple times a day, every day, for years, you walk past every day on your way to work, to lunch or whatever, and then suddenly you look up and you might not even notice it at first, as you walk into to Greg's or something to get a pasty or a sausage roll, and you think, oh, something weird about that sign, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And then when you're walking back from Greg's, you look at the sign again, you see it says poo. Man, just... brilliant. Just brilliant. I didn't grow up properly. I haven't matured properly. That's probably why I can't maintain an actual adult relationship. Because I didn't grow up right because of abuse and trauma suffered when I was a child. It stunted my development. Well, that's the excuse I use. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should take responsibility for my own inadequacies and not blame them on, legitimate problems and things that happen. But speaking of 90s, this is all of that. All of that, while hilarious, obviously, was ultimately supposed to be just a quick segue to say, like, oh, do you remember the 90s? Lobo's from the 90s. Well, a little bit earlier, but Lobo as we know him today, he's from the 90s. I think it's literally 1990 was this era Lobo made his debut. I don't know why I've given him Dragon Ball Z hair. I've seen him with hair similar to that. I don't know if I even like it. It's Lobo-ish, but it's a bit much, isn't it? I think my favourite version of his hair is like Bisley's hair, but it's more sort of dreadlocky. A bit more. I don't know what the fuck this is. Do you remember Lobo from the 90s? I don't. I never knew who Lobo was in the 90s. I was a child. I was too busy coming up with brilliant TV show ideas that never got made into TV shows. I think then the TV executives just sort of realised they were not necessarily interested in what I had to offer, and then they left. Or maybe like the was it AAA, the car help place? They showed up and helped them with their car troubles. I've been thinking about Lobo quite a bit recently. I'll get on to some more specifics, but I was thinking it's quite funny how this was my thought was Simon Bisley. He draws Dread, and everyone starts drawing Dread like Simon Bisley. Draws Slain, everyone starts drawing Slain like Simon Bisley. Draws Lobo, everyone starts drawing Lobo like Simon Bisley. I thought that while I was out for a walk, and then I very quickly afterwards thought, like, I can't recall ever seeing Lobo in a non-Bisley fashion. Like, I've seen loads of Dread pre-Bisley and post-Bisley that isn't like Bisley, but, whatever. I've seen loads of Slain pre and post-Bisley that isn't really Bisley's Slain, and, other characters he's done as well. But when I think of Lobo, I realise I haven't seen any Lobo that isn't like Simon Bisley Lobo, at least in terms of the character design and, the jacket, the jeans, the hair, whatever. And I wondered, did Simon Bisley basically design Lobo in that case? Like, I don't know. I didn't know. I have since researched. I thought maybe that was the case because I didn't know that he hadn't designed the character. Maybe it's possible he did. So I looked it up. Now, initially, because I literally Googled, did Simon Bisley design Lobo? And one of the very first things that popped up was a quote from some article or interview which basically said the creators of Lobo approached Bisley to redesign the character. And I thought, well, that's that then. That makes perfect sense. But then looking it up just yesterday, I can't find that. I don't know if that article got deleted or changed, or it was incorrect and got removed or edited or whatever. But I can't seem to find that, because I wanted to look it up and read it and reference it to you. But yeah, so that might not be exactly true. What I could find was things that say, thanks to Simon Bisley's style and dynamism and design and characters and shit and artwork in general, Lobo then took on new life and became a popular character where he hadn't been previously. So I don't know the specifics of if he did get approached and was literally asked to redesign the character, or if he did it somewhat off his own back, but with the backing of, with the go-ahead from the original creators of Lobo. Either way, he did that, and Lobo became an actually popular character as opposed to what he was previously. I was going to cut, but there's no need to. There's literally no need. So I got this. This, quite frankly, big fragging compendium one of Lobo. It's about fragging time. I was in the comic book shop just looking for just seeing what's around. It was a couple of days after New Comic Book Day, so there was new stuff around. I was having a look, art books, comics, and there was nothing that really piqued my interest. The latest Incredible Hulk had a Nick Klein cover, but not Nick Klein's artwork on the inside, so I wasn't really that interested in it. So then I'm looking at the graphic novel section. This is all really interesting and necessary stuff. Looking at the graphic novel section, looking at Hellboy to see if there's any new or old Hellboy comics that I want to at least look at, if not purchase. There was nothing there. There was almost no Hellboy at all, which was a bit of a disappointment. And then the next shelving unit over went into the L section, and I saw that. And I was like, that is Lobo, and that's a thick fucking Lobo book. I pull it off the shelf, I see that. Brilliant. And it's a shitload of Lobo. Shit, like they've even got the Lobo Cop in here. Initially, I didn't buy it because that's fucking cool. That's really fucking cool. Because my initial thought was, well, it's got this on the front, so it's got Simon Bisley's Lobo in it. It's also got Lobo's back. It's also got the Christmas special, the para. Well, it's this one right here. What do you think? The para. It's not paranormal. It's paramilitary Christmas special. So I was looking through it. I saw those, and there's a bunch of other Lobo and shit. Some really phenomenal artwork. But I was like, I've already got all the Bisley Lobo. I don't know how interested I am in other people's Lobos. So I put the book back on the shelf. Didn't pick it up because I was like, whatever. Also, it was quite expensive. But then over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't get it out of my dumb head. It was just, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd think about literally the book, because I've said before again and again how I love books as physical objects. I just like books as things, and I love the dimensions of this, the volume of it, the feel of it. I like the design. It's such like a cool fucking tome, a Necronomicon of Lobo, a Lobonomicon, a Lobonomicon, Necrolobocon. And I couldn't get it out of my mind, so I thought, fine brain, I'll go and buy it then, with money I probably shouldn't be spending, but okay, I'll do it, I'll go and buy it. So I did, and I'm really glad I did, even though I've already got a chunk of the Lobos, for instance, Simon Bisley's Lobo and such. But like I say, there's a bunch more stuff in here. Some really cool Lobos. This run, it's Cam Kennedy doing the artwork, who I've looked at before. He's done a lot of 2000 AD stuff. He's got a story in the Dread Batman crossover compendium book, which is really cool. And like I say, some other 2000 AD stuff. And I really like his artwork. It is quite reminiscent of Mick McMahon's older stuff that I've looked at, all the Slain and stuff that he's done, and Dread, with his like line usage and the way he like inks his shadows and stuff. So I really like his artwork anyway, and he's got quite a sizable Lobo story in here with covers by Mr. Hellboy Mignola, which is really fucking cool. There's a whole bunch of them. Let's see if I can find more. Yeah, there's another one. Look at that. Lobo by Mignola. Simon Bisley's designed Lobo by Mike Mignola and Cam Kennedy doing the artwork. It's really, really fucking good. LOBOCOP is in here, like I said. Is it Martin Emmond? I think the guy's name. That's so cool. That's definitely one I'd steal for Gun Viking. I might, at some point, go through this book with a load of post-it notes and mark off loads of pages that I want to, like... I'll do little sketches of, like, this drawing of Lobo just to put a reference in my head that I can draw from later and copy for Gun Viking or something. But yeah, Martin Emmond, who did the LOBOCOP comic, he has another story later on in here as well as LOBOCOP. That's really cool. Is he hanging up by his hook chain thing? I like seeing Lobo from behind. He's got... The design of Lobo is pretty fucking fantastic. But so there's all of that. There's some really, really cool artwork by a bunch of artists I'd never even seen before. Some I have. There's a few that are like, they're okay, they're well drawn, and they're part of this thing. But there are some that do stand out. This one I pointed out earlier, this one, it's quite a long story about Lobo's kids. Like, he's got a long lost daughter or whatever, and she's trying to track him down and kill him, and she gathers up all his other kids. Evidently he goes around the universe impregnating people, having a load of kids, and they all band together to try to kill him. Infanticide. But I think it's safe to assume Lobo doesn't let that happen. And yeah, the artwork is insane, and it's really interesting, really detailed. Giffen, that's the name. It's got the guy's actual name. They make up Keith Giffen. I believe Alan Grant and Keith Giffen are the creators of Lobo, the initial people that made Lobo in the first place. And Keith Giffen does art or has a bunch of art in this book, which is really cool. The artwork's insane. It's got like... there's parts of it that make me think of Mobius. There's parts of it that make me think of Jeff Darrow in terms of like the sort of style he uses, the amount of detail he puts into certain parts. Because he seems to have his own sort of like sci-fi vision of the world, which is Mobiusian to me a little bit, but still absolutely his own style. And his use of lines is crazy. Even just this, like, I guess this is Lobo's daughter tracking him down. The sun with a little face and the lines and the clouds and the smoke and stuff. Just lines where you wouldn't necessarily put them, but they imply texture and form and stuff in a very stylized way, but in a really, really effective way. So I've looked through this whole book over the course of about an hour and a half, and I could happily spend hours and hours looking through. But I have looked through the pages of this story. Like, yeah, Lobo's in the military at some point, so most of his hair's gone. Really, really cool, interesting artwork. I had a lot of fun looking at it. One thing that this book has, which is really, really, really cool, which I first read on the back. This comic packs a whopper of stories, beginning with my very first appearance in the Omega Men number 3, Ignore the Hair and Outfit, along with all the other stuff, including ink from my desk. That's cool. I wonder how long it'll be before I've ripped pages to pieces. So yeah, that's the original Lobo. There's not much of him. He's obviously like a side character or something in this story. That's the original Lobo. Which, I mean, if I can find a good shot of him from Bisley's redesign. I want to keep my finger here for the space bike. But if I can find a good shot of like his full body. Yeah, okay. Oh, actually, this is perfect. Yeah. It's so insane that that's what it started as. And I guess maybe they tried to do more with Lobo as a standalone character, but I assume people just weren't into it. And then they approached Bisley and they're like, oh, you know, we've got this character Lobo. I assume they were like, do what you want with him. And Bisley did this. And to the best of my knowledge, this is Bisley. It's Simon Bisley. Also, I mean, there's a little shot of it here, but there's another shot later on where he does, the original Lobo did have like a space bike kind of thing, which is very 80s, fairly Kirby-ish, just this big blocky fucking thing. So Simon Bisley took that and turned it into just like a chopper with skulls and engines and shit. Just made it fucking badass. Which I don't use that word too often, but it fits so appropriately. And there are elements he kept in like the basic design, like the sort of black makeup around the eyes and corners of the mouth, the pale like white skin or whatever, and the hair being sort of up and kind of outrageous but not over the top. So Bisley absolutely kept elements of that. You can see where he was starting from, and then it just made it fucking so cool. And I can only assume it would be similar to like if somebody said to me, oh, can you redesign this character? And I basically just took Gun Viking and put him in different clothes and was like, there you go, that'll do. Because that's just like how Bisley draws shit. That's how he drew like the Terminator looked like this, Bisley's Terminator. Mean Machine from Judge Dredd looks like that. Judge Dredd looks very similar to this, but still in Judge Dredd's uniform. I mean, Slain is basically that, but naked, mostly. And I mean, that's the thing as well, is Simon Bisley draws Slain that looks like Simon Bisley. He draws Lobo that looks like Simon Bisley. Constantine is one he mentions that looks like Simon Bisley. So I think it's pretty nuts that he was asked to redesign a character and he basically just drew whatever the fuck he wanted to do, which came out looking cool because he's sort of, Simon Bisley is that way inclined to draw shit that just looks fucking cool. Leathers and chains and skulls and shit, crazy hair and stubble, swearing and cigars. I also read somewhere that a lot of like his dog, the little bulldog pal he has, apparently Bisley just put that in the comic for fun, and the writers just ended up including it and writing it into the story. So apparently Bisley did that quite a lot, just add loads of his own shit into the comics, and the writers would just be like, okay, I guess I'll add that into the story and make that work. And why wouldn't you, really? You know, if you're working with Simon Bisley, who at this point, this is like prime 90s Simon Bisley, when he's working on, I think he said somewhere that this was around the same time-ish, he was working on the Batman Dread crossover. So it's like Slain, the Horned God, has been, that's a thing, he's established, he's done his ABC Warrior stuff. Batman Dread, Lobo, he's probably done a shitload of other things, private clients and all kinds of stuff. So if you're working with Simon Bisley on a comic where he's redesigned your character and made it look like this, if he starts adding stuff into it, you're going to be like, yep, okay, that's fine, go ahead, do what you want, we'll put it out. Even to this day, I mean, you know, this artwork looks dated. And it's only really a few years before this artwork. But this artwork, while it does look dated in comparison to current modern day comics, it still looks really fucking cool. Whereas this looks kind of old and tacky. You know, there are elements that are cool, like the space scenes and stuff. I always love... maybe that's not a great example, but I sometimes love old comic space scenes and stuff. Some of the sci-fi elements are really, really cool, like classic things from these comics. I don't know if it has a date on it. So I'm trying to find out if it's got like a... I'm pretty sure it's 80 something, but I don't know. It might. 83. Okay. 7 years before. And I don't know. I assume there was more, or Lobo was used more after this first appearance. But yeah, that first appearance was 7 years prior to 1990. And in 1990 is now, 34 years ago? This is almost as old as me. But it still looks really, really cool. So that's something. It's hard to do that. It's hard to make artwork so long ago and have it still look so fucking good. Mostly, there are parts that have aged a little bit or whatever, but for the most part, it's just... it's so good. And, yeah, again, Lobo's back is... love it so much. When was Lobo's back? It's not... There's a few things between... Lobo's back. Part 1. 1992. Only 2 years later. Jesus, okay. Only 2 years later, but the artwork looks like he's not necessarily putting more care into it, but it does look a little bit like more developed. Maybe a little more detail here and there. But just fucking so good. I love it so much. The one big arm, the muscular build, the muscular back. Just the angles, the lines, the like heavy shadows in places here and there. It's just so great. So good. But aside from that, from the obvious Bisley, like this one with Giffen, I don't know exactly what's going on. I might have to read this story because it is quite a funny one where he ends up killing all his kids. There's some underground wrestling thing going on or something. This huge, I assume, female wrestler or whatever in a tiny little bikini. The details, they're not necessarily anatomically accurate, but really, really fucking cool details and shading. Little details in the robotic sci-fi parts. Jumps at, I was going to call him Bisley, Lobo, throws him away, and then they have a little fight. They both grab random people that are just standing there. They run at each other, swinging these civilians, and smash them against each other, leaving just rib cages and bones and flesh of these people. And Lobo obviously did some damage, basically tore this wrestler in half. The detail in that, like the lip tearing off and all these lines in the muscles and veins and stuff, it's insane. Oh, and it also has these Lil Lobo parodies of the Peanuts comics. So Lobo's running to kick the ball. This girl pulls the ball away like Lucy does in Peanuts to Charlie Brown. He falls on his back, stands up and just blasts her in the head with a gun. It's so good. There's a few of those throughout where he's got space, so he fills it up with the little Lobo. It's really, really brilliant. If any of my TV show ideas did take off, I even had an idea for an international stateside version. It could be, whatever show, whatever the name of the show was, in the US of A, and have the American flag and an eagle and whatever, America. Because we have snooker over here. Billiards is a word also. We do have pool as a game, but it's usually it's not as well pronounced as snooker, for instance. They might have it in pubs, bars and things, but largely in student unions and things, I think. Whereas America, pool is much more of a thing. They have pool halls, which I don't know how prominent they are in the US, but I know the term pool hall is something they have in America that isn't really a thing over here. And even if it is, it's like there might be some dotted around, but they're certainly not as prominent over here as they are in the States. So the American version of the show would be called Poo Hall. What we do is we go to the pool halls, and then on the signs, again, you know, late at night when no one's looking, get a team out there to go around, paint out the L's on the word pool. Leave the ones on the hall because, you know, it wouldn't make sense otherwise. And then when people say, "Oh, you're going to go down to the pool hall," you say, "Don't you mean the poo hall?" going down to the poo hall to play some poo at the poo hall. And people would laugh and laugh and laugh. Oh, brilliant. Just brilliant. I was reading an interview with Simon Bisley. I've got portions of it up here on my laptop computer next to me. Someone was asking him about Dread and stuff. And so Simon Bisley said, when I want to do a character, I have to become involved with them. I've got to be them. I've been John Constantine, I've been Slane, I've been Lobo, but I can never be Judge Dredd. I can never be Batman or the Joker or any of those blokes either. They're more of a silhouette to me, something representative of oppression, which is a very good point. And it makes sense because if, like, Simon Bisley draws / paints himself as these characters, and then when you hear him say that, like, he draws the characters, but to do them effectively, he has to, like, be the character. And, like, when you see his John Constantine as well, you can see that. Like I say, you can kind of see it in Dredd, but he even says, like, similar with Batman, there's a quote here, I like drawing Batman. In that sense, I guess I like him, but otherwise he can fuck off. He doesn't have any other purpose behind what he does. Or he doesn't have any purpose behind what he does other than his fucking parents died. What kind of shit backstory is that? It was enough to fuck me off of it. Terrible backstory. I just can't believe in it. But hey, no denying he's fun to draw. There's just no connection. Which makes sense. Like, you know, he draws him because he's getting paid. In this interview, he goes on to say things like that. Like, ultimately, he's a commercial artist. He goes where the money is. But his sort of best work comes out of, for the most part, comes out of him already embodying the character and therefore just putting that onto the page, which really shows through, especially with Lobo. Because, you know, if you look up anything that talks about Bisley's influence on Lobo, it says Bisley took his motorbike influences, his like rebellious thing, leathers and hair or whatever, all of that, and put it into this Lobo design. And there is a quote or two here. The interviewer asks him about Lobo. When I was doing Lobo, I was hanging out with friends and motorcycle gangs, spending my time building choppers. Real badass shit. They'd race the countryside like mad motherfuckers with no purpose or reasoning. I had money, I had long hair, all my teeth. I was built like a handsome motherfucker. I had the ladies and the money and the firepower and everything. I was a crazy motherfucker, absolutely reckless. But yeah, I was really just a cartoon character. Life was all Motorhead, thrash metal, motorcycles and recklessness. Oh yeah, at the top here. So the interviewer asks, talk to me about your relationship with Lobo. And Bisley says, well, that's easy. It's because I already was him. I was basically a cartoon character when I was doing Lobo. So yeah, Bisley literally was Lobo. He was a cartoon character. He was that. So Lobo's chopper is just Simon Bisley on his chopper. Lobo's outfit is probably shit Simon Bisley was wearing. And if you see photos of him from that time, he looks like that. He was bodybuilding, this huge guy, big square jaw, like long hair and muscles leathers and shit, and it's just like, yeah, that's the shit he was putting his time and effort into, his passion. So his artwork absolutely reflected that, which is really, really fucking cool. I'm just reading through parts of it. Yeah, there's a bunch of other shit. But I think that's fantastic. I think that's the sort of thing most artists can only hope for, that they're given characters to draw that are already sort of so perfectly aligned, or not even that the characters are already aligned, but they are able to infuse themselves into a character so much that they come out just looking really fucking cool. But most people aren't Simon Bisley. Most people aren't this kind of a character already. And that's there's a lot of, like, even I have a lot of hate for a lot of autobio comics, slice of life. Oh, I work in a bookshop. Here's a comic about that. I work in a coffee shop. Here's a comic about that. I work in a shoe store. Listen to me talk about that for fucking hours and hours. And comics like that are often largely uninteresting, verging on the point of being bad comics. But every now and again, someone pops up like this and they make comics, and they're really, really fucking cool. And there is I mean, I was going to say there's a reason I'm drawing Lobo. I don't need a reason to draw Lobo. I'll draw Lobo for the fuck of it. I drew that. I really like this one, actually. I started off this was just going to be a rough sketch, and I figured, I'll trace over it and make something better of it. But as I started drawing, I started really liking it. I like his face is almost Joker-like, but not too much. And I like the shape of, like, his sort of chest, waist, and leg bit. The arms coming down. The chains. I think if anyone ever said, "Hey, Ewan, do you want to draw a Lobo comic? Your style fits that," or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, but I'd probably do this a lot. Like how Liefeld would hide feet behind terrain and obstacles and mist behind other characters so he didn't have to draw them because he couldn't draw them. I'll do that with Lobo's chain arm. I mean, even this, Lobo doesn't typically have this much chain on his arm. I exaggerated a bit. And I put the effort into the links here, and it's got less and less so the further down I got. So yeah, I'd find ways to hide his chain arm and just not bother drawing it, because fuck that. But that's quite a fun drawing. I like this one because I figured this is a 2-part Lobo special podcast. I've looked through the big book generally, and I think next week I'll pick out 1 or 2 stories to look at a bit more in depth. But also, I've done some Lobo drawing this week, and I think next week I'm going to do a painting, maybe from like start to finish. We'll see how far I go with that. Because I've done a few Lobo paintings, but they've basically all been copies, like straight copies of Bisley's Lobo. So it would be cool to do my own one, and hopefully it will come out almost as cool as the other ones. That could be quite a cool painting. I'm still working out, like, because I want to have some kind of action going on. I don't want it to be just Lobo stood there. Even though I could paint it and it would look cool, you know, I want to have him doing something. This is kind of there, but I'm not sure. I think I'd like him to have a gun. I had some other ideas of like this, you know, Trinity in the Matrix, where she goes, dodge this, have Lobo like that. And then I thought, like, I don't know, because I was thinking in my head if it was like a comic book cover, and I might paint it as such and then add the logo in afterwards, the Lobo logo. So if this was a cover, I don't know, his head here, his hand here, the gun here, and then that leaves this space almost blank. I could put the dog in there or something, but it's a bit weird. So then I was trying to sort of reconfigure it a bit. It's obviously just a little concept doodle of space and stuff, and I could have his body like coming down here, his legs splayed open, sort of fill up the space a bit more. You have the Lobo logo, a little Image Comics thing or whatever, or DC, I guess. Chains, some chains, but not too many. Maybe I'll make his hair really crazy and take up loads of space. Like, that could work. that could be a sort of decent piece. So that's basically what I'm working towards, because I think doing like a full-on painting, a Lobo painting, and like I say, spend some time really looking more in depth into some of the cool artwork in that book would be cool. Another idea is to have, maybe I started a bit far over. Guns. This is his arm. He's got guns. A little funny little pea shooter of a gun in this hand with his chains, and his body around here, a leg there, his head, his eyes, and again his hair. I could do all crazy and shit. That could be quite a cool cover. It's got some good like action lines to it. If I have this gun tilted down a bit and this one up a bit, that could work. I just, I'm not planning to do anything with it. I just want to make a really cool Lobo painting that I'm really happy with. Just to give him some love, because I love the character. I love the design, because, Bisley, obviously. But I really haven't spent much time with him, like drawing him or anything. So it would be cool to like do something really, really cool with that. Maybe work on the hair so it's not so Dragon Ball Z, like I said. I don't know how or why I did his hair like that. Because maybe here, because it's also like spiked outwards, but like find examples of yeah, it's spiky-ish, but it's not like, is it Vegeta? I don't know Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, I guess I saw this, and that's maybe what I was going for. But I think I prefer it like this, where it's a bit more down, a bit more straggly, than big and spiky. I don't know if I can get like a mix between the two or not. That's really, really good. Where there are sort of bits going everywhere, but it's kind of down. I also like him having a vest. Him, shirtless under his jacket is cool. But I do like here where he's got a tank top on underneath his vest, his jacket. I quite like that. So yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with the hair. I like that the hair it's not too particularly drawn. It's like thick strands like this. And the whole thing, it looks like Bisley drew it quick, because that's, how he draws. He has a lot of energy in his lines because he makes them pretty quickly. And I like that. And I like the thick sideburns into a thin-ish, stubbly beard. Some people give him more of a beard, and I'm not sure I quite like that. It's very similar to Hellboy in that way, where some artists will give Hellboy like a full beard, and I don't know if I dig it, but I like him having quite jaggedy sideburns, thinning out around the chin with just a little tuft here. I think that's the way Hellboy ought to be. Okay, this is Hellboy looking over Lobo. Oh, a Lobo Hellboy crossover would be cool. That might even have been done already, I don't know. Lobo Hellboy. There are drawings of Lobo versus Hellboy. It looks like they may have met at some point in a comic. It might exist as a thing. It would be cool to see, with the right artist as well, if you have the right artists. Because there are certain artists that just draw Hellboy really well, and others that draw him well enough, but it's a bit and same with Lobo, and every other comic book character ever, I guess. But yeah, if you get the right artist doing a Lobo Hellboy crossover, I think that could be really, really something. Maybe it should be me. Maybe I should do it. Maybe that would be a cool thing to work on, just as like a fun fan project or whatever. A Lobo Hellboy crossover. Another idea into the bank of ideas. As if I haven't got enough nonsense to take care of already. Gun, chains, tit muscle here, waist, belt, butt, leg, skull, knee pad here. Put that in there. Maybe his head needs to be a bit bigger. Glove. I think that could be quite a cool cover. It does have good action lines to it, and I could even sort of paint in some lines just to give a sense of movement. I think the jacket adds quite a bit of movement as well, if I do that right. Give him some kind of necklace. I think sometimes he wears a necklace with like an iron cross on it. I don't know if that's like Nazi shit or not, but might need to be careful with that one. Don't know. No, I was thinking like, do I put his other leg here or something? But no, I think it works if you can only see one leg. That could work. That could work as a cover. Could work. It needs to be refined, obviously. This is a very, very rough compositional sketch, but still, I could even put the dog in there. I don't know how to draw bulldogs very well. Just going to look like Jake from Adventure Time. That's quite good, actually. Draw a bulldog with no reference. That's not bad. And give him a gun as well. Pew!